Hello, welcome everyone to Creating in Fortnite. I know you've all been excited about this one, and thank you all for sharing your feedback on the kind of streams that you would like to see. Today we're going to be talking all about Verse UI, aka the big one. No, I'm just kidding. But the one that you've all I see you all in chat. I see you spamming font size. You be gentle. We hear you. We hear you. Welcome, welcome everyone. I see you. I see you guys. I'm loving this one. Yeah, the big one. That's right. That's right, chat. Today we have the wonderful Derek here to talk all about Verse UI. Some of you may recognize Derek from his talk at GDC, and I will drop that link in chat in a second if I can snag it. Yeah, here we go. So this kind of goes into detail about all sorts of good things, especially talking about what we've got going in Verse UI. So take a look. It's on the GDC website if you didn't get to see it live, and I put that in chat. But today we're going to be talking about something special and something new. And Derek took the time to put together a nice little talk about all the things that are coming in the very near future. So yeah, I'll throw it to you, Derek, for a little bit of backstory about you and what you've done over here at Epic.
Hello. Hey, UEFN community. Super glad to be talking to everyone. I'm Derek Diaz. I'm a UX UI director on Fortnite. And I've been working, I've been at Epic now for a little over 11 years, I think. And so I've been certainly all over the place on Fortnite, but on Fortnite the entire time. It's a big product. It's a big game. And I've been working on the UEFN creative side for a couple of years now, uh, and more so over the years as it's been in development. And I am really excited to talk about this new feature that is targeting 3520, which is right around the corner. And that feature is uh, for Verse UI. It's called Material Block, and so we're adding a new member to our Verse UI feature set alongside texture block, color block, and text block. So Material Block is a feature that allows you to use material assets that you make in Editor. And materials are super capable, a lot of functionality in UEFN and in UE, of course. You can do so much with them. So this unlocks a ton of functionality. I threw together a demo, trying to do some cool stuff, trying to do it almost as quickly as possible. Almost like a prototype, like someone coming to it sort of new might do. Just try to experiment with some things. And so I'm really happy to focus this entire conversation around UI material block, and I'll also talk about some UI materials that we've made available to the community. This entire demo is built using materials that we've released publicly.
Awesome. How exciting. Everyone's going crazy in chat, Derek. They're so stoked. Today's a W for sure.
Oh, sweet. That's great.
Yeah, lots of love in chat. Thanks all for
All right.
being here. We're excited to dive into it. And yeah, Derek took the time to put together a whole thing for us to show it off. How exciting. Yeah, yeah, you guys excited? That's right. Awesome. Cool. Well, I'll throw it to you, Derek. What are we
All
gonna
right,
dive into
I'll jump into
first?
it. Okay, let's look at some really basic wireframes first. Woo!
Yay, we.
Something a little crappy here. No, I was trying to think, what's a good way to try to demonstrate material block. There's so many ways you could do. If you look at Fortnite, all of everything super high quality on the HUD and in-game UI. Materials are just absolutely key to it. um, any high quality UI is definitely built with materials in the UI domain, as it's called. Um, so I was trying to think about what's something I could do to demonstrate a variety of ways to use materials. And so what I ended up focusing on was the guard spawner. And let's show some UI sort of about an enemy engagement in like a combat situation. This is a caricature UI. This is not necessarily something that you would do in a shipping game per se. Mainly, I made it like really big, right? I did that just for presentation purposes. Um, and you can
Ooh.
really see, where this could, be evolved in different directions. But the goal was this. Let's put a spawner down. Let's have it spawn a bunch of different enemies. Let's do one at a time. And let's just show all the information that that guard spawner gives you from verse. Let's take as much as we can and use it to drive material-based UI. So we're going to show the enemy's portrait here, and we're going to put it in a circle, and we're going to mask it because the portrait's square, right, or rectangular. So we're going to try masking it. We're going to do a health meter, and we're going to make it a radial just to make it more complicated, right? This is stuff that would be just dreadful to do with the texture. I can't even imagine how you could do with the texture. You certainly would hate your way through it. But as material, this is why we have UI materials. Let's do a segmented bar showing how many spawns are left. I put text here just to remind the community to talk about how we need more text capabilities. I'm just kidding. But certainly that is clearly heard and definitely on a high priority to release.
See,
Uh,
chat? See? They're listening.
um,
We
but
hear you.
this is just going to repeat what the information is here. And then guards have a lot of different status capabilities or status states. They are alerted to your presence. They're looking for you. So let's use that to drive a status. So like this is just with a little portrait of what we're going to use. It's going to look kind of like this. And this is exactly how we do UX design process here on Fortnite. We use a wireframing tool to gray box the UI, do some nice low fidelity mockups. Maybe we'll move into a higher fidelity mockup. This is a pretty common practice, and I did a little glimpse of that here. All right, so let's just jump into the demo. What we're going to do is show the product, show the outcome here, and then I can go through the assets in the editor, and then we can go through the verse code. Um,
Yay! That sounds great. And if you guys have any questions for Derek as
yeah.
we go, please feel free, type them in chat. Just try and put a question in brackets at the start of it, just so we can see it and it'll catch our eye. But we'll be going through those periodically and I'll be gathering them. Please stick to verse UI because that's what Derek knows. Won't be able to answer too much beyond that because we just got Derek today. So he's one man. He has 11 years experience here, but still. But yeah, so throw your questions in chat when you're ready. And with that, yeah, let's get into it.
There should be plenty on material block here to focus on.
Cool.
Okay, so let's see. I have so here's a little project running. And this is just a demo, right? So I just have some triggers set up. So I'm going to walk on this trigger, and there's the UI. So all that UI on the right it's all material based. There's not one texture in it. There's the text block on the bottom saying left 6. So inside shoulder pads room, I close them off. There's that enemy in there from a guard spawner. And I actually want to start out here because you can see his status change. Of course, now it's not doing it. There we go. He's searching for me now. So
Ooh. Ooh.
now the dot 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 it's a placeholder, and that just means that uh oh, heads up, Shannon. I got an out of video memory warning. I don't know. Oh, let me know if the stream dies.
Okay.
But
You got this
um
little computer.
Yeah, come on, you can do it. The dot 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 means it's looking for me. So, but notice the eyeball, it's animating, right? So
Yeah.
you can create animations and materials, and that's one of the really cool things about it. And you
Cool.
really, can't do that in any way that you want to as a texture. And we'll look at that material in a minute here. So, all right, let me teleport in and see where he is. All right, so I can try to now he's looking. He lost me. Now he found me with the bouncing exclamation mark. And you see he has
Yeah.
a health bar up top showing
Cool.
about 10 health segments. And then there's the spawners on the bottom, 6 skull spawners. And when you shoot him, he's losing health. We'll do a deep dive on the material here right after. And when you shoot him, notice the outer rim of the circle he's in. Um, oh, of course, the editor disconnected. I wouldn't be surprised if the server just took an update. That would be
Oh,
my
no.
luck. I
Is
have
it
a video
going?
backup if needed, but
That's
uh,
okay.
it's still working for the moment here. Notice that when you shoot him, the outline of the circle pulses white.
Yeah. That
That's
was
all through
cool.
material.
Ooh.
And there's an animation. That's a fun one
Mhm.
to show. So
Yeah.
that animation is purely animating material properties. So
Cool.
it's not a UMG sequencer animation, which would be cool too. But this is animation by material properties.
Mm.
Well,
Yeah, it
I'm
looks
glad that
clean.
the demo is still running.
Yeah. Good
It's always
job,
my
little
luck
demo.
that updates happen on our internal builds
I
right
know.
when I'm doing a demo.
Tuesday's always been the day, and sometimes I'm like, "Oh, it's so close to just anything happening. It's so dangerous to do them then." But here we are.
So once you eliminate the guard,
Yeah.
notice that a new one spawns and the animation occurs of the head going up
Yeah.
in there. So that's kind of a cool animation with the texture position of his portrait. But I made him really stupid. He doesn't really see me.
Yeah. I was
Just
like, "Does
for
he want to be friends, but he doesn't get
yeah.
it?"
And I gave him a sword. Well, I have a gun, but a weapon.
Damn.
So and you see like the health meter sort of animates as an accordion. Thought that was fun. It's pretty cheesy. It's not a super AAA animation, but it was a fun one, and I can't wait to see what the community does with this.
Yeah, it gets a point across and it's great. It shows off the different things it can do and exactly what you're saying, Derek. Like once it's in their hands, they're gonna do so much cool stuff with it. I know it. This looks great.
Yeah.
I especially love the little animation that's showing his status. That's cool. It's
Yep.
eye-catching and simple.
And he lost me,
Oh yeah.
and he found me again. Play hide and seek.
Uh, Mystic Tree is asking, so you tie it to material parameters?
Yes, everything that is happening on the UI for the guard is being done through setting material parameters from verse,
Mm.
and I can't wait to show you that part. It's a really a great feature add to the verse UI stack.
Ooh, people are saying they've been waiting for material block for a long time.
Yes.
We will break it on the first week. Hey, we're
Yeah.
curious to see what you do with it. I mean, what are you
Uh,
gonna do with it? How many yeah. What are you gonna hack into it to make it really, really cool and do things we didn't expect? That's what I'm excited to
hmm.
see.
Okay. So let me jump into the materials first, because
Cool.
we can get a look at the material parameters there as well.
Yeah.
Let's see if
Let me check. I think we've got a few questions too.
yeah, we can do some questions here first.
Let's see. Mhm. Okay, I know, and just to address it again, I know we saw a lot of questions about font size. We're working on it. We hear you guys. We don't have a date we can share yet, but 1000% we've heard your feedback and we're working on that. Let's see. Hmm. With the material block, we'll be able to get keybinds with. So will material block be able to be tied to keybinds?
Um, you can certainly use the input trigger device to interact with it. I need to restart the editor because I had a little issue there I was talking about. So let me do that.
Oh, the update.
um,
Yeah, no worries.
but okay, so with keybinds, that's the verse code side. But let me hold off on that. I need to restart the editor. Sorry.
No
Um,
worries.
ba-
We're rolling with the punches here.
Basically, this happening was my nightmare scenario here. And of course, it happened.
It's
Um,
okay. It's happened to someone else too before, Derek. It's we gotta change. We gotta change the day. I know we don't want to change the day because we want to stay consistent, but just to be safe, we probably should for our live streams. Let's see. See, a lot of people are already talking about all the things they hope they can do with it. We love verse. Oh, good.
All right, I'm gonna have to close the client here window, and
No worries. I know we do have a video, but also if anyone has any questions for Derek about verse UI in general, or um, any advice, because I assume you've been here for 11 years, Derek, but you've been in the industry overall for quite some time, including that 11 years. That's a lot of time.
I think it's uh, I think it's very similar if you're making an Active Directory interface for enterprise
Yeah,
software, or if you're making
yeah,
a weapon that fires shark teeth that home
yeah.
on
Same
somebody.
thing.
It's a similar process. That's why I
Mhm.
love UX.
Yes.
uh, like investigative journalism to understand problems, and then you create
Yeah.
something that people can use and hopefully brings makes their life easier, safer, or more enjoyable.
Absolutely. Well, one of the coolest talks I've ever been to is about how UX, it's in our everyday lives. It's everywhere we go. It's when we're out in the world. It's when you open a door. It's when you look for a sign. It's when you like, it's IRL too. It's not just on platforms and programs and gaming. It's everywhere, which is pretty cool. Sometimes I'll go to open a door and it doesn't say push or pull, and I go and I do the wrong thing, and I'm like, "Ah," that I was like, "It's bad UX." It's just not designed right.
I am just trying to start a new session here, so I am so sorry.
No
All
worries,
right.
we run into it's live, what are we gonna do? Live stuff happens.
Yep. Okay. Should be good to go
Mhm.
here in a second.
Cool. So many great questions, keep them coming, y'all.
But yeah, so materials. You can I can't wait to see what people do as far as maybe HUD special effects.
Yeah.
You're frozen, your HUD, has icicles forming on it, or obviously the elemental effects, fire and so forth. You can do so
Yeah.
much with indicators and icons. Oh, actually, while this is loading, what I can talk about is
Yeah.
the UI template. So if you go to UEFN and create new project and go to the feature examples, there's a UI template in there, and within it, we hit a bunch of stuff, a bunch of good stuff. We have a version of the Material Lab that was released some time ago that is made compatible with UEFN, and we've added, so it has a bunch of material functions. So a materials is can be based off sort of smaller building blocks, and material functions are one of those. And materials are notoriously very complicated. If you look at the GDC link that I think you sent, Shane, I took a video, a picture of a material from ballistic that we made, and it's we have such talented technical artists um,
Yeah.
who make these things, but my gosh, is it complicated. Um, it can be complicated. It doesn't have to be. And Material Lab and the functions, within it, certainly make it much easier. But they can be hard. So what we have in the UI template is a bunch of materials that we've made. A lot of them are around meters and some textures. So meters like radial meters, linear meters, segmented meters, and some cool texture effects that let you do like bouncing textures and things like that. Um, and they're just really hard to make. It takes quite some time, and so you can go to that project. You can use the migrate tool to
Mm.
migrate it into your own project, or you can just go to Windows Explorer and just right click on the content folder there on the folder and just copy and then paste it into your own project. And and then you can use that to add all that content, all those UI libraries into your project, and it gives you a great starting point for building UI.
Yeah, it'd be awesome if we can. I think we can kind of show that. Can we, Derek?
Possibly. Okay. Am
And
I
no
back
worries if not,
yet,
but
or is my share? Okay. Shane, do you control the sharing on my screen, or are you seeing it now?
and it's on that's on the Discord, right?
Yeah.
Or is that Dan?
Oh,
Dan's got it. There he is. Thanks,
cool.
Dan.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I got the project running
Mhm.
again. So,
Yay.
all right,
So many good
and
questions. Keep them coming,
yeah,
y'all. There's a lot of, it's coming soon? Yeah.
of
Don't
course.
suppose font sizes are also a surprise. We're working on it. We're working on it. We're working on it, prick.
Something
Cool. So we
happened
got it
here
back
to
up.
where there's a lot of red. So, I think the the editor might have updated on me and
Oh,
taken an update, which is making it difficult. But that's okay. Let's see here. Let me see if I can actually turn off the markup. Uh, my gosh.
chat's saying rebuild, rebuild.
Maybe that's it. Probably a good idea.
Got removed from it. Yeah. Just went through an update.
Oh,
Thanks for your
well,
patience,
good
chat.
advice, somebody. Rebuilding worked.
It was like all of
Always
them.
the
Thank
answer.
you, everyone.
Everyone's like,
Thank you all for your
all right.
help.
Okay, so thank you. So we saw a demo. I made a little video as a worst case scenario here. So we saw this video, right?
Cool.
You saw the
Yeah.
mock-up. So this is the health meter, segmented meter. This is called a mask texture material we made. This is a another segmented meter. This is a texture effects because it has some animations. And let's go through those in the editor first here. And um, ignore that little error. That's fine. Okay. Um, I was all set up here, and I gotta get all reset.
We got you. We got you. Let's see. Dun, dun, dun. Well, Derek's getting now set up. So for those who are just coming in, Derek's gonna be talking all about material block. And it's a surprise. It's an exciting thing to see. And he's crafted a cool setup for us. He's doing that again now because we got hit with the quick update there. But thank you for your patience and the life of live streaming. Here we are.
Yes.
Let's see.
Okay.
No, no, no. Feel
Yeah.
free. All
Okay.
questions are good.
So, all right. So this is being shared. Okay, cool. So this
Yeah.
is the folder where all the content for the demo is the UI content. As you see, these are material instances and textures. One little reminder on textures is because it's easy to not think about it sometimes is to be sure your textures are set up in a have a few parameters. Set up a certain way. One thing, it's always great to make your texture a power of 2 just for performance. And the editor will even give you a warning if it's not size as a power of 2. For my demo, not everything is, I don't think here. So don't do as I do, as I say. Do as I say, not as I do. But you want to set mip gen settings to no mip maps for a UI texture. And you want to set texture group to UI. This is a really important one. Texture group to UI. And then you want to set compression settings to user interface 2D over here. And so I just grabbed one of our portraits from the game, and I just grabbed some art that we had to do a really simple set of icons for the guard's alertness states. These could be much cooler if you spend time on it. So this is just it's a simple dot dot dot, and this is actually like a menu button I just reused. Um,
Mhm.
I thought this worked decently enough. for
Yeah.
a "I've lost sight of you" type of an icon. And then if they found you, we show this icon. So we're going to be changing a material parameter in one. So all of these are being fed into one material, which is kind of cool. So as you can see the pieces here, this is a spawn count. This is the player's portrait. And this is the health meter. So we were just looking at these icons. So let's look at that one first here. So this is called the pattern that we tend to follow internally here is mi for material instance underscore ui to call it a UI material because materials can be used for different things, and the UI domain for materials is kind of special. Um, so we can jump into this one. Now, here is what this material looks like. I can turn on a background. Um, and let me jump to something here first. Let me go here. Okay. And I'm going to jump to the parent of this material. Here we go. So you should find versions of these in the UI template project under the feature examples for UEFN. And let me open this up. Now, um, ideally, a material is has only exactly in it what you need it to do. This should be as small as possible to be as efficient as possible. If you are trying to eke out every frame of performance from your game or your project, you certainly want to optimize your materials. The sort of like omnibus, like one material to rule them all, in practice is not a great idea for publishing final content. But as far as prototyping and getting ideas out there and having some versatile materials, they can be really, really handy. So that's my disclaimer on some of these. Um, and just so this one here, let me show kind of how sort of large these scenes can be. So, this isn't terribly easy to throw together. It's using a lot of material functions, as you can see. It has a lot of pieces to it. It's really well organized. And Probably should have looked at these before I started to share them, but these are already made publicly available, so it's fine. So, these are, I think I'm really glad that we were able to release these for
Yeah.
folks to use. All right, so this is called the material, of course, and what you do is you can make an instance of that. So you can right click on one of these guys and say create material instance. The material instance um, is basically going to be that material, and when you open it, it shows up in a different way. It shows up in this format, and what it is it lets you set all the different parameters that you've
Wow.
exposed to it. So what you can do is sort of create as many material instances as you want to be configured any way that you want with these different properties. So let me go back here, and I'm just gonna duplicate this. I'll just call it test. All right, test. All right, so you can see in this one, this is called texture. This is material is called, the parent material here is called texture with effects. It has we just kind of piled in a ton of effects in here that are pretty cool. So up top here we have a texture, and this is what we're changing to change the icon in that demo that I shared. We're just changing this property from verse. There's only one material instance that's used in this project, and we're just changing that property. So you can do all kinds of different changes here. You can set. Oh yeah, Dash is not going to work the way this is set up right
I know
now.
I
But
see some comments that are like, there are so many parameters, but I mean, the good news with that, right, Derek, is that there's so much ability to be able to change it to be exactly what you're trying to do, right? Like the more
right.
parameters you have, the more freedom you have almost in
The- and
creativity.
and let me go back to saying, ideally, what you want to do when you're shipping something to be as optimal as possible is you want to have as few parameters as you can. That's a very much a true statement. And so this material in particular is one that lets you combine a lot of different parameters together to make cool effects. And ideally, you might modify the root material to be just what you want, so it's simpler. But for example, we can make this thing bouncing, like
Ooh.
scaling and bouncing. You can turn bouncing off. We have all these different bounce, properties to affect scaling and bouncing under scaling and bouncing here. Um,
Nice.
and it's kind of to do some really cool different things. And it's really great. It's a great way to add some animation to projects, to UI and projects made in UEFN,
Yeah.
because you really couldn't do that in a very easy way with pure verse code and texture right now. Warping is a pretty cool one. You can make it get pretty trippy.
Whoa. I see someone asked, can we design the animation or is it like this by default? So I assume this is their answer is all the different
You can
parameters.
change all the parameters you want, correct? And again, all of this is being driven is this is an instance of this material that we have made available in the UI templates project. So you can modify, you can open this and duplicate it and
Yeah.
modify it yourself as well.
And we got the question if there was a template coming with this, so we just updated the existing template, right?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Someone was asking if a template was coming with this, but
Oh, with
we
the demo I
updated.
just have,
Yeah.
I would love to include it into the UI template eventually. Yeah, we
Okay.
just need
Okay.
to do that work. Uh, so yeah, I won't spend a whole lot of time on going through this example here, but as you see, halftone's a pretty cool effect. You can just do some really fun things. Some really talented
Yeah.
folks, developed these materials.
I do have some questions about, let's see, I was trying to pull out some for specifically the parameters, but we did get one that was with material block, will we be able to configure 9 slice features on the widget?
Um, I I am not a UI material expert. I do believe there are 9 slice features available. There's that capability available in materials. Um, I'm not sure offhand what they are. So I'm happy to maybe get back on that question. I don't want to pass along bad information.
That's
Um,
a good point. I guess I don't know if there's I assume in our forums we have sometimes we get questions about Verse UI, so I can just what maybe we could create a thread after this for the live stream, Derek, for people to drop some questions post live
sure
stream.
thing.
Is that
Yeah.
okay? Okay.
Sure thing, sure thing. Okay. Okay, so let's see, where was I here? Okay, so I wanted to mainly go there to show that to demonstrate, how we're changing this icon up here. And that's how we're making it animate.
Yeah.
Looking at the other ones here, whoops. Okay, so let's go to the health bar, right?
Ooh.
This is a really handy material. So this is called our we go to the parent, you can see the name. This is our progress meter radial, and it just has a ton of properties. I'm actually going to go ahead and dupe this one also, so I don't mess up the original one.
Someone was asking if you're going to be at Unreal Fest, Derek.
Yes, and this is a bit of a early preview. We have a further interactive demo using material blocks that I can't wait to show at Unreal Fest. We have a
Nice.
few UI sessions. I really encourage everyone who can make it, who's fortunate enough to go to attend.
Yeah, definitely.
So
Definitely let us know.
so this is a really cool material. You can set the min and max range. So here I set from 1 to 100, and it can be set to be between any two numbers or to be normalized, so it goes between 0 and 1. And the progress is the value of where it is on that range, and the widget just or the widget the material responds accordingly.
Mm.
And so there's a lot you can do with this one. So if we go to position N, this is kind of a cool one, right? This is how we do that animation when the here, let me go back to that video. When you eliminate, here we go. Right, here we go. Let me hit play. So that animation of the health bar coming back in, I was really just kind of messing around here, but really that's just taking this position end property I know it might be small on your screens, but and we're just changing that from 0
Mm.
all the way to zero point 0.5. And that's how that animation is created. So we'll go with the verse code in a second. Um, and it can, be a full circle. It can be
Nice.
any part of a circle. You can set the rotation. Um, you can do a thickness here. And of course you can change scale. There's
Wow.
important properties to look at, have to do with the softness or glow, it's often called,
Mm.
because you can see how it's really
Oh,
jaggedy
yeah.
right now. I didn't do a great job of making these super smooth for the demo. Just kind of ran out of time, but
Oh, they
but
look
as you can
good.
see, it's not too bad to do that right here.
Yeah.
And you can set different segment counts,
Wow.
right? So like only a few
Infinite.
if you want. So we had like 6 here, I think, or maybe it was like 10. Um, and
This is cool. Does
yeah,
anybody have any questions about specifically the parameters? I know we have so many questions to go through, and we have been documenting them, but if anyone has any questions directly about this one.
a really cool
Uh
one is that snapping property. Sorry,
yeah,
Shane.
no, no, you're good.
Snap. See how it's continuous right now,
Mhm.
and when snapping is set to 1, it is discrete in how it
Mm,
updates.
yeah. Oh, someone was asking, will we be able to grab player outfit portraits through Verse UI?
Um, that is work that we are tracking. It is not in the 3520 release.
Cool.
But I we recognize that's a really important feature. And you can see it utilized in ballistic. It's on the roadmap to be something that we can release. It's just not doesn't have a date yet.
Cool. Any plans on making animating parameters in Verse easier?
Um, there it's absolutely something that should happen. And there are plans, but there are not plans that are in a state that is something that we can talk about right now. Meaning to say that it's like locked and ready. Um, of course, the challenge with this sort of work is once you release it and people start utilizing it, if you change it, it breaks everyone's work. So it's one of the sort of biggest challenges to try to release something at a high value that has been tested internally enough to have confidence that this is going to be locked this way
Mm,
forever, or
yeah.
within reasonable time.
I feel like that kind of answers this question we got, which was what's the largest roadblock for Epic when it comes to developing new Verse UI desired features such as material block and font size?
Oh gosh, largest roadblock. I would say it's balancing the goals for a stack of UI tech that serves the sort of large scale metaverse goals, um, uh, and trying to release things as soon as humanly possible. um,
Fair, fair.
so it's those two things are always sort of top of mind challenges. Let me jump to
Absolutely.
this one here. So this is the player portrait. This is called M for material, UI texture mask with background. That just rolls off the tongue. This is a really cool one. So it's one of my favorite ones because it has a usability feature that I love. So what it does is it lets you take a texture and it lets you put it on top of a shape, really. So you can change the shape to be a square. There's a property here called shape. If you hover
Mm.
over it, it tells you 0 for box, 1 for circle,
Mm.
2 for hex, 3 for triangle. So you can turn it to 0 and you can have a box and 1, and there's a hex and triangle. So one of the harder things to do, um, and once you learn, so learning materials it can be intimidating, but I encourage everyone to look at Material Lab. It's a really great set to start to get your mind tuned in that direction, that way of thinking. Um, but some of these things can be tricky to do. And one thing that I really love about this is see how the portrait pops out of the mask here, right?
Yeah.
I can uh, I can change. Oh, actually, I should probably dupe this.
There have been a lot of questions, and it's okay if we don't know the answer, Derek, but I
Yep,
wanted to address it because we've gotten it a lot. People are wondering about custom buttons.
absolutely. Yeah, um, I think interactive components is a still, I'd say, a step beyond, let's say, passive, being able to update UI widgets that you make through a UI design tool like UMG from Verse. I would say interactive UI is a step even beyond that, per se, right? It's along that path. And so we so it makes sense roadmap wise that that'll come after we have the verse to UI widget update feature.
Cool. That makes sense. Let's see. Um,
So yeah, okay, so you can change the shape, right? And so what's really cool about this is if you go down to show mask preview, you see this red box that appeared.
mm-hmm.
You can change the shape of that and the position of it. So and that's what creates the mask. That's what defines the area for where the texture will pop through the mask. And so that's how you can create that popping out the top. You can move it to the bottom if you
Oh.
wanted to and change the width.
Yeah, someone brought up with Material Block, they feel they'll be able to make some pretty good custom looking buttons. Is that true?
Um, you certainly can, but we still there is still the same button verse UI API. So you have the button regular, quiet, and loud, and you can use the process where you put a button on top of your art
Mm.
and try to control and you control sort of all that together, which is certainly not the final end goal of that feature. But materials will help create more custom buttons,
Mm.
experiences per se.
Someone was wondering, or there is a lot of feedback. We're probably aware of this one. I'm assuming the invisible button request. Have we heard this one a lot? We're getting it a lot in chat.
Um, can you elaborate on that one? I bet I
uh,
know what it is.
the community is saying if
But
they had an invisible button, then they could, find unique ways, like creative
yes,
ways to make their own. Yeah.
yes, understood. Yep. So you notice that when the enemy spawns, when you eliminate the enemy here and they kind of spawn in like this. So what we're doing is it's sort of silly animation, but it's kind of cool. And what's happening is we're just changing this texture position property. We're animating it from -1 all the way up to whoops to 0. So it
Oh,
goes from
cool.
here to here, and so you can see your changes right here in the editor, and then you can set these properties. All these properties are directly available in Verse,
Mm.
and we'll get into that I think in a moment.
Yay.
um,
Cool.
and
Oh, someone said they
yep,
called the invisible button non-hit testable visibility.
absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no, understood.
Okay.
It's yep.
It is above my head, and I appreciate you describing it, Chad.
Yeah, the
Thank you,
idea
thank you.
is give us um a button which uh wouldn't be so I think there's actually two things. I think one thing is something on top of the button will consume hit test and you can't click the button and it results in just bad UX. And so yeah, that is an issue absolutely being tracked and worked on.
Oh, let's see. Someone did
Here's
ask.
that spawn meter real quick. And
Oh
so
yeah.
And just for fun, I made have a gradient going from green to red.
Mhm.
In my head, it's like, oh, there's 6 more guys to eliminate, so it's like you're in more danger zone. And as
Right.
you get here, it's a little bit easier. Again, a silly design, but I wanted to really demonstrate in verse code how you can set the different colors of things and how things can look. And here I want to show that a gradient can be spread across the entirety of the segmented um, the progress meter segmented. Now, what's really cool here is this skull is an SDF icon, which is a special way to take a texture and process it in a way that your UI material can be configured to do all kinds of cool things with it, such
Mm.
as create different outlines like a stroke or a fill color. It
Oh.
becomes a very versatile thing. It looks funky when you go look at it. Now, in the UI
Mm.
template, we took all the creative icons and we made SDF versions of them. So
Oh.
this is how this icon looks. As you can tell, it's like they're kind of blurry, right? But the materials are set up specifically to utilize that kind of a texture. I got lost here. Let me go
Mm.
find where I was. Um, and what it lets you do is, and let me go here, duplicate. Um,
Someone was asking if they
yep,
can use the parameters with their own UI textures.
yes, absolutely, absolutely, yep, yeah.
Whee!
There's
Sounds
so this
exciting.
material is fully. These materials are fully available. Sorry, here to go. These are fully available, so you can control A, control C. Select it all, copy it, and modify it, and to do anything you want with it.
Awesome.
Where was I? I wanted to show, here we go, SDF. Yeah. So you can see that there's a section here. So this material can be used to show different shapes again. It can be just circles and looks a little funky here if I do this a little better, right? And it can be squares, these triangles, or an SDF image. And the SDF images can be any texture, and there's plenty of online tools, and you can use things like Photoshop or any freeware image editors, and follow online tutorials for how to take a texture and make it an SDF. It's called a assigned distance. Um, oh my gosh, I just
Leaving your brain.
I just lost the what the F stands for. Field, thank you.
Field, field.
um, but you can look at stroke thickness here, right, and see how the skull gets a different thickness, right? So this is not a vector. This is something that we can use to apply material parameters. It's something we use the materials to create these sort of stroke effects and sort of feathering here. So okay. Um, so these are all the pieces. All right. Shall I
Oh,
jump into the to verse code?
yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
We have a ton of
Okay.
questions.
Do you
Let
want
me
to do
know.
no, Shane? Like this is your thing. So do you want to jump some questions?
I'm doing my best. Yeah, we've just got
Yeah.
so many, which is great. So thank you all.
Yeah.
And let's see. We've got a lot of questions. Are there plans for this? Are there plans for that? If you have feedback for things that you want in verse, please definitely share in the forums if you haven't already. If you have, we probably do have it definitely built into the system, and we're monitoring that and documenting that. Because anything on the forums goes straight in. But yeah, definitely make sure and share that if there's anything. Someone was asking how to add multiple canvas to all players. Is that something?
Multiple. I'm not quite sure how to interpret that. That something maybe we can try to get at towards the end here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I super love the all the interest in the verse UI in UI in general, and I I recognize that there's a lot of room for growth and
Mm.
improvement, and I just can't wait until we can deliver these
Yes.
these improvements to everybody.
They're all working on it. They're working on it hard. Can we add color grading for the like at the top of I'm assuming it's the bar that we're looking at, the red bar that you were showing us, Derek?
This guy, okay.
Someone was wondering if they can do color grading, I guess, from the top where the red is.
Color grading. Um,
I
let's
assume they mean
see.
like
We
the
have a color position, and you can do
yeah.
some pretty clever things with gradient positions.
There you go.
I'm not sure if that is.
Or
I
maybe
don't know if that's
gradient is or
what.
maybe it was grading, but
I'm not sure if that was
yeah. But
maybe part of the question, but you can do some cool effects like this. Um,
that is cool. And how many colors can you kinda add in there? Does it can you just keep
so,
adding?
mostly the materials are pretty consistent. This one in
Mhm.
particular has 3 colors. So it
Okay.
has color 1, 2, and 3 with different color positions for the gradients, so you can change them. So this is set to be a radial gradient now. Actually, not radial gradient. You can change it to radial gradient. This is a gradient that goes from basic left to right, and
Mm.
then you can turn on radial gradient, and you can see how now it emanates from the inside out.
Mhm. Yeah.
Other materials actually have more gradient stops. Um, things like let's see here. Well, um, the like the linear bar, for example. If I go to here, make material instance. This is our linear progress bar. This is a workhorse. It's just a linear progress bar. It can do so much though, right?
Yeah.
This has a lot of different capabilities. You can set these rounded edges, um,
Ooh, yeah.
and here's that glow max to make it smoother edges, as you can see, right? I'm not sure how well that comes through on the stream, but that's really jaggedy, and this is now smoother.
Oh, someone
Um,
has an interesting question you
and
might know some
here's
insight on.
5. This has 5 color stops.
Ooh, wow.
You can do some cool rainbows or gradient tricks.
Very cool. Someone was wondering why Material Block was moved from UEFN in 2023 to be brought back now. Um, I guess they're just wondering the lore of back then.
Oh gosh. I yeah, I don't think it was anything particularly super super lore filled or interesting lore. It's usually it's usually the balance of um of arriving at a feature design which is stable enough to release so that people can start using it and have confidence that it's not going to change from out underneath them. Um, and there is a lot of evolution that is happening uh, in on the verse API side in UEFN. So it's just another deep large feature set which is having
Yeah.
to evolve, and that just takes some time. Some things take longer than others, unfortunately.
Yeah, and some things jump ahead of the on priority depending on what feedback we're getting or, what things that are being planned for the future. So it could be anything. Someone was wondering, this is a good question. I don't know how much you'll know, Derek, for this, but someone was asking any optimization best practices with Verse UI, either from structure or cross-platform compatibility that isn't anywhere on public forums.
Oh
So
gosh. I'm sure we can always do better at communicating best practices on public forums. So I'm sure there are some. One thing I'll probably say like 4 times now, I think with Material Block, we've given a lot of power, a lot of capability, and all these properties. Um, and now this is yet another way for somebody to make something that's incredibly non-performant. For example, you can do all kinds of things, but it's no different from being able to write verse code, which is not performant, right? This is another feature set that just has a lot of capability. Where is that material? That like that this one, for example, like this. If you wanted a material which all it does is
mm,
tint a texture, then ideally you don't want all of this. You really just want this piece basically. So you want to dupe this and sort of update it to just have that one piece, and that will be more performant then.
Mm,
Um, and but nothing is stopping anybody from making a material which combines, all these things together into one. I
mm,
don't recommend it because you end up just suffering for performance that you're not
mm.
necessarily getting getting out of getting a benefit from.
Someone was asking if there's any recommendations in terms of batching or optimizing draw calls with your verse UI and material blocks.
That's a good one to hold on to, and I'd love to get some more direct feedback at. So
Yeah,
yeah,
cool.
offhand, I don't
Yeah,
want
we can
to
do that.
open that box up.
No worries, no worries. Da, da,
Do
da, da.
you should we Shane? Do you want to jump into the verse code part, or do you want to go on with
Um, let's see. We have so many questions. But yeah, we can go into verse for a bit because we do have quite a few verse questions. So let's dive into this and then we'll come back and take some more in a bit.
this might be a good way to segue into some more verse type questions. So this is
Yes.
the incomplete project, um, and what it does is I'll go through it all. It's a lot of repeating the same patterns, so it shouldn't be too bad to go through. Um, at the very top, so this is a verse device. We look in here. Whoa. Oh man, almost did some spoilers for the Unreal Fest presentation. So there's a verse device here, and um, and all it does is it just has a spawner and a debug trigger associated with it. So um, uh, we have our modules for the folders that we've made in the project, and this just refers to UI, and we're only using material block demo here. So look at the structure here. We have UI and then material block demo. That's where all our files are. That's what that's all about.
Cool.
And so here's our two editable devices that we've added to the device. So we have a spawner. That's that
Hmm.
guard spawner. Spawn 6 guards. And then we have our debug trigger. Just for this demo, you step on it and it shows the UI to kick it off. At the top, we make a variable. I just call it my UI, and it's an overlay. I personally like to use overlays and stack boxes sort of when I can. And I think things like Canvas are great, and it's just really hard to visualize without a what you see is what you get editor. And for this demo, I thought using an overlay and some stack boxes will be easier. We'll get to that part of the UI in a moment here, but so here's where we define our 4 materials that we use. We have our radial meter, our portrait art, the count meter. This is the spawn counter, and that's the eyeball, the status icon. And so these are materials in that folder that I've been pointing at. Um, where'd you go? Here we go. So I duped them for some just to demonstrate some changes here, but that's what these guys were.
Yeah.
And as you see, they just come in as types directly in here as classes. So we have the ability to set some default parameters on them. So progress is the parameter named for the meters, and that defines how far along is it between its minimum and maximum. And we just set some defaults here. The status icon is set to to not bounce and not scale by default. Over here, we just have some variables that we use throughout the project. Again, the demo. This is just a simple demo, so it's not made to work with multiplayer or anything. It's just meant to be very straightforward. So we have our count for enemies eliminated, and how many enemies are left. That same thing as a float value, so we can use it with the material parameter. And the intro anim value, which is used to animate that head from the bottom up. We'll get to that towards the end here. We have a text block where we show how many enemies are left. That's just this right here, left 4. And a little helper function to be able to set that text where we show the word left and then the number that are left here. All right. So for on begin, we subscribe to a bunch of events. We subscribe to that trigger that you can walk on. That's just right over. That's this guy right here. Just walk on this trigger and whoops, and
Mm.
it kicks off the UI. And then we subscribe to pretty much all the spawner events. I thought it was kind of a cool one to demonstrate a bunch of different material block capabilities, things you can do with material
Yeah.
block. So we have the guard spawned, alerted, when they lose, when they've lost sight of you, when they're suspicious of you, when they're just unaware of anything, when they take damage, when they eliminate you. Now my guy was invulnerable in this demo, so he couldn't hurt me. But oh, this is when they eliminate you, a player, and this is when they've been eliminated. So we
Mm.
subscribe to these events from our spawner. And here are the material blocks. So what we do is we give it a name, radial material block, and it's of type material block, and we set its default image. It has a very similar, identical API to texture block,
Mm.
if you're familiar with that one. So you set default image to radial meter, which is over here. The radial meter is using the enemy health meter. So that's what this is. MIUI enemy health meter. So this guy is what we are using for radial meter. And then we set our radial material block to use radial meter. And you can give it a desired, or you need to give it a desired size. That's just a vector 2, so an X and Y.
Mm.
So same thing for the player portrait. That's the material portrait art or the spawn counter skull meter, and then the status icon, which is that eyeball, right?
Mm. Yep.
Then we make some UI in verse code. So here we make an overlay. An overlay can have multiple children. So we have a slot which has more things in it. Um, and then we have another slot on the bottom. So the bottom slot is the status eyeball, and it is set to be aligned to the right and bottom. And then we just offset it from the bottom a ton here. So padding pushes it up from the bottom. So if you were to look at uh, our mock-up here, we're doing is we're setting this thing to be, it would default bottom left like this, and we're just padding it up to go here.
Ooh.
That's what's happening here.
Yeah.
Um, Inside that first overlay slot, we do a stack box. It's set to be vertical. Um, and I'm sorry, yeah, it's set to be a vertical stack box. And within that stack box, we just have a lot of sort of layout within layout here. So, ultimately what we're doing is creating a series of overlays and stack boxes that allow us to put this health bar right on top of the player portrait and put the spawners below it, and the spawn's left has text below that, and the eyeball or the status indicator over here.
Cool. Let's see. Is anyone? Oh, someone did say, oh, so we have to create separate material instances for every player?
If you want to, right. So if you want to do multiplayer, so this example is not taking into account multiplayer, where you would do normally a mapping between the UI and the players. And so you want to create that mapping. Um, uh, and there's examples of that on the online docs. So yes, you'd want to keep track of your UI, your player UI for each player. All right, so stepping into this a little bit here, when you walk on that trigger, it calls show UI. And here the agent is optional. and we're actually not even ignored. We're actually not even using it for this demo. Um, so we set up some defaults here. We set the like we get how many spawns are left from the spawner, and we set that text to say how many spawns are left on the UI. Set default enemy spawn counter meter progress. So we set the so this is our first example of how you set a material parameter. So here we go, count meter. So again, let me scroll up. Sorry for bouncing around so much here, but
No,
basically
no worries.
these material blocks that we created here, what we do is these materials up here, what you do is you simply use their name and you do a dot. So count meter dot progress, that refers to let's go to this one, progress right here. So changing that value in verse code will have the same
Mm,
effect.
very nice. Thanks for going through all the verse code with us, Derek. Because I know people, the moment you pulled it out, they were like, verse, verse.
um, uh, yeah, absolutely. So we have so here we're setting the default value of that meter to enemies left. And we're enabling that spawner just because I had it disabled from the get-go here. Now we're going to show the UI, and this is going to iterate through each player in the player array, and we're going to get the player UI for a given player. Now, we're not doing that mapping I mentioned or someone brought up, where if you want
Right.
to show different UI for each player, you need to keep track of that. So
Okay,
that
yeah.
would need to be,
Someone,
yeah.
oh, sorry. Someone said, so I want a progress bar different for
Mhm.
each player. I will need 16 instances. Is the question? Let's see. So if I want a progress bar different for each player, so if you want a separate progress bar for each player, will they need 16 instances?
Um, that certainly would be one way to do it, but I think um, that that very well could be a. I'd like to get back on that and get a one of our verse engineers to to give some thought on that and then maybe a more thoughtful answer before I can
Yeah.
absolutely say yes or no on that.
All I've been
It's a good point.
noticing during this is just how much interest there is in questions around
Absolutely.
verse
I really
UIs.
should have one of our verse framework engineers strapped next to me here for this.
Hey,
Um,
we made happen what we could.
um, okay, so moving through a little bit here. So now these are the guard events I was subscribed to. So here's when they spawn. So when the guard is spawned, here we so there are four characters. So we get the agent, and we do our if it's a um fort character, if it's an agent, we get a fort character, and we get the health here. And so here we set the enemy health value to the health from that character, which is from the agent, and then we set their radial progress meter for their health to that value. So this just setting the property of the material block directly sets that material parameter on that instance, and so the material just snaps to show to that new state. We show some debug text here to tell you that guard spawned with their health set to this value. So a new guard spawned in this case. So now we just set some default values. We set their radial meter position N. We set their outline alpha. You'll notice that when the enemy takes damage, we sort of pulse this outline.
Mm. Yeah.
I'm not sure how well that comes through on the stream, but
Yeah, we can
I did
see it, I
it. I
think.
did it white just so it stands out a little more.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's what this outline alpha is about. So we're spawning the new UI with no alpha, so the outline's hidden, and we're setting the colors to be um, to be sort of the default colors. So the guard alerted. guard lost target, guard suspicious, guard unaware. All these you see are following the same pattern. And really all we're doing here is I want to demonstrate setting a different type of parameter on the material block. So here we're setting the status icon material block, or the material. We're setting it to the texture parameter, and we're just giving it a normal texture, like you would with texture block.
Mm.
So here we're changing it to the enemy status alert. Here, when they've lost target, we're setting it to the closed eye icon. When they're suspicious, we set it to the TUI enemy status I. And again, these refer to these icons here. It's these names here.
A few minutes ago, Tom Jenk was asking, what's the VS Code setting that keeps the scope viewable on screen?
This I'm not sure what he means by scope.
Can you clarify, Thomas Jenkins? He also said, Derek probably just has a sign that says "coming soon" to hold up
Yeah,
for most things. Yeah, well, we coming soon.
I
Um,
did. I remember Tom was in the audience at GDC. It's awesome to have so many UEFN developers and the community there. And yeah, certainly heard a lot of how strongly people in the community needed material block. So I'm glad
yeah.
we can release it here.
Yeah, someone said, this is so good for us verse engineers, basically what we've been asking for since we got access to materials in the asset.
Of course.
Did.
Yep.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then,
So, and I can actually show that actually while I'm here. So if I were to go to here, radial, I'll go here to enemy health meter, hit F12, and here's where it's defined in the digest, and here's all those properties that we were looking at in the editor. They're repeated here in the digest. So you can see, you can go and you can copy the names from here and paste it into your code for convenience. You can also go to the edit from the editor. You can go into here and say right click and say copy display name. And that's also a convenient way to grab this name so you can paste it into your code. It should match one to one. I was showing the status icon. So that's used across all of these, and so this is kind of a cool one. So we have the we so I wanted to set the eyeball when he's looking for you, when the enemy is looking for you, to be going side to side. So it's using that bounce property, that set of properties under bounce for the texture effects material that we made the instance based off of. And so we're setting it to here. We're setting suspicious. We set status icon is bouncing to 1. And then whatever you set up in that property, so whatever property you set up in that material are going to just turn on. So here,
mm,
let me turn off let me turn off is scaling here. So is bouncing is off. And here, let me turn off halftone as well. Okay. And here's is bouncing is on, right? So,
mm.
and you can change the bouncing speed and the magnitude and so forth. You can make it go really crazy. So all you're doing is turning this from 0 to 1, and it's activating this, and it's a nice way to add some animation, some bit of life
Yeah,
into the UI.
catch that eye.
Yeah. So that same pattern is set up here. Now, when the guard's damaged, this is an interesting one here. So here we have the the parameter passed from the guard's damage event. It's this device AI interaction result, and so we grab that and we get the agent and the fort character, and we get the enemy health in this
Mm,
way, and then we set that the radial meter, that's the health meter, to that value. And then we do the outline pulse. So all that's happening here is we're setting some default values. I wanted to show how you set an RGB color value on a material parameter.
cool.
So outline color 1, 2, and 3 are RGB colors, or they're colors. They're verse colors, and you can set that by using make color from sRGB, and you can set the RGB right here. So these are all set to bright white. So we show the outline full alpha, or full opacity. We set the outline 3 colors because it's set to have a gradient of 3 colors. We set them all to white, and then we do this async function we call spawn pulse portrait outline. This is just sort of a fun thing I wanted to try. I can't wait to see what people in the community do with this. This is far from a tweening system and so forth, but this is just one way to I wanted to sort of animate these material parameters over time, and this is one way to do that. You can do far more sophisticated ways.
Ooh.
But if we go to pulse portrait outline, that's defined down here. Let me just jump down here a little bit. Okay, pulse portrait outline. So this will run um, in parallel with the rest of the game, with the rest of the code now. And what's going to do is going to loop, and it's going to break the loop once the portrait alpha is less than 0. So we set it to 1, so it's full opacity, and then we're going to dim it out back to 0. And once it hits 0 or goes below, it's going to break that loop, right, and end that loop. So it's going to call this loop until then, and here we're going to decrement the alpha value of the outline. So it'll be from bright white down, 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 down. And we're also making this glow. So it's going to have more of a glow, and then less and less of a glow.
Oh,
Actually, it's going to get more and more of a glow until it gets reset. And we do a sleep 0, which is a way to wait 1 frame. And so that's how that pulse happens, and that's what's happening here,
very
that pulse
nice.
effect. And let's
Is
see
that the
here.
one on the white that we see behind him, Derek, or is it the exclamation point pulsing, or
Oh,
both?
it's
I
it's
guess
it's along the outline here. Yeah.
that outline.
So
Okay, cool.
yeah,
Yeah,
let's jump to that.
that guy. Yeah,
It's pretty quick.
yeah.
Here we
Someone
go.
was asking, will this be experimental feature, or
No,
would you be able to publish islands using it after launch?
you can publish with it. It's not experimental.
There you go. Are the materials he's using be available or coming out afterwards?
They are available right now. Go get them. Everyone who loves UI should go to the UI template, open up,
Yeah.
make a project, and the migrate tool is a way to move them into your own project. Sometimes you might run into a hiccup and it might not properly capture them or move those assets. So you might need to go into Windows Explorer and just sort of
Mm.
copy and paste them into your project directly.
Yes.
There's a
Easier
lot of
way.
good stuff in there. So when a guard's eliminated, we have we do an animation where they animate from their head from the bottom up, right? And that's following the same pattern as the guard damage with the white pulse. So here we set some we update some things. We do our enemies eliminated equals enemies eliminated +1. We increment enemies eliminated, um, and um, we we set that text that says, so this is setting how many spawns are left.
Mm.
Um, this is setting the skull bar that shows how many spawns are left. The
Yeah.
material. This is setting that to the new value. So when you defeat an enemy, it ticks down basically 1. And now we do that start intro sequence again, where that head can animate from bottom up. So here we're just setting up. So if the enemies, if there are any more enemies left to spawn, because I capped it at 6 just because,
Mm.
we set some default values on the UI, and like we make sure that that the status indicator is not scaling or not bouncing. And then we set this variable intro enemy anim value to -1, and then we spawn this async function intro new enemy, which runs down here. And this is very similar to the outline I was just talking about. Here we do another loop, and we break that loop once the animation is done. And that check is happening right here. And what we do is we animate the texture position Y of the portrait art material parameters. So material instance. Let me go find that one here. So right here we have texture position Y. So we're taking it from we give it a -1 value, and then we run that async function and we increment the value from all the way to 0 with that delay per frame, one frame delay, and that's how we create this animation.
Very cool. Someone was asking, are there any chances to get a UI animation module that allows us to change parameters gradually on the client instead of the server, just like the animation controller for props?
So certainly, I think to really we really want to we really our goal is to give creators the best tools possible. So I think powerful animation tools is certainly something that's necessary. So it's definitely something that is recognized as really a core to building high quality UI. It's not something that we have right now though.
Yeah.
Ready to release.
We appreciate your feedback. Definitely keep sharing what you want most. Maybe we could even do a question of the month around that. That would be cool.
Here's a quick cut
Um,
and paste of what you have for material block. You can see it's in the verse digest. So if you're familiar with texture block, it's very similar. Um, but we have the default image. You can do the tint. You can set the size, X, Y, the vector 2. Set the image, get the image. Um, and yeah, it's very straightforward. So it's really all the magic happens as part of the parameterized material, the properties. So
mm,
that's the verse code. I copy and pasted the guard spawner events down here, but I don't think we need to go through those right now, honestly.
Someone's wondering if you can manipulate the animations based on the damage value.
You can basically, if you have data in verse, you can do anything you want with materials. You can set these values to anything that you want. So that's the fun part. I hope that these materials we've released in the UI template, can help people start to learn how to use them, and so they can make their own and so forth
Yeah,
and
someone was
do
asking
creative
if you
things.
can apply text as texture to a texture block. Textception.
Um, I don't know. Let's see if I can start this thing again. But really, if you were to look at the material instances, or it's gonna make me wait here for a minute. Come on.
I notice we have like over 100 questions, but then the more I dig into it, the more I'm like, oh, these are repeats. So
Okay.
we do pull each question, guys. So feel free to, you don't have to put repeats. I'm not looking at chat for questions as much as I'm looking at just the order of which you all shared them. So we've got a lot.
I was gonna try to address that last question, Shane. But I hit the start button now here, and I'm waiting for a
Oh,
minute.
no
Sorry.
worries.
But basically, if you look at the material instance and the properties that are there, um, you can set those material instance properties directly from Verse. So anything you can do, I gotta start up some new servers to demonstrate it again. But anything you can change here, you can change in Verse.
Yeah, cool. Hmm. Someone said the first example showed the enemy image as part of the UI. Are there plans to be able to get the image of the player? Oh yeah, we addressed that earlier of the player outfit so it can be displayed on the HUD. We are aware of that and that would be very useful to have. So yeah, we're looking into that. They are working on it. Let's see. Is there are 2D physics coming to Verse UI? Y'all have a lot of great questions so for what's coming. sadly, Derek and I do not have the capability of sharing those things. But if there is stuff that you really, really do want, please, please do share that feedback in the forums directly. Your top list, the things you want most, right? Because when you think about it, we get a lot of, there are obviously things you all are asking a lot for. But then sometimes after the top three things, it's like, okay, what is, how many people want the other stuff that is brought up? And that helps us prioritize. So, always feel free to add that feedback in our forums and upvote those things so we know the priority from your side.
This is a video I recorded again, by the way,
Ooh,
Shane. This is not
yeah.
the it's not running live.
Oh, someone did also wanted to ask what your favorite I think I lost the question in chat, but it was what is one of your favorite ones that you've built so far? And I assume this one's pretty in depth, and I know you've been working hard on a lot of good examples, but is there one in particular that's like close to your heart?
Oh gosh. I something that's kind of fun is looking at just some patterns that are really common in games that are have been like refined over time and done really well or interesting things and I love being able to provide solutions to the community to be able to do things like that. For example, I love this game, Outer Wilds,
Yeah.
um, and I know I always confuse it with the other game called with a really similar name, but this is the exploration space puzzle game. I think I got the name right.
Yeah, yeah, Outer
Yeah,
Wilds.
okay,
I've
okay,
heard of
yeah.
that. Yeah.
But on their little health bar, the more damage you, yeah, exactly, the Outer Worlds, the Outer Wilds, but
Versus the Outer Wilds.
in their health bar is as you take more damage. It's not a game about combat, right? So it's kind of subtle, which I love. And your little portrait sort of fills in with damage, with like red as you
Mm-hmm.
take more damage.
Yeah.
So we demonstrated a similar material solution that does something similar at last GDC, and so that's a really cool one. One that actually I don't have on hand, but I really want to was
Yeah.
I love to create very different ways to use I love the idea of taking the data that we have in the game and doing creative things with it, right? So your health is just a construct, right? It could be your fear, your danger
Mm.
level, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So we have an example of like a waveform pattern, right? And or like a heartbeat, right? Plenty of games have done this, Resident Evil and so forth. So the more in danger you are to losing or something, the pulses are different and that kind of stuff. So all of that can be done with material block, or even just using the hub controller device to make a custom widget in UMG and then make a material and set the properties that way. So things like that, I love to see. I love to see creative solutions
Yeah.
to do different things.
Definitely. Definitely. Let's see. I had some other great questions. There's so many. Will this happen? Will this happen? There's so many of those, and we appreciate you asking. If there's things you want, again, please do share. Oh, someone was asking, what does no MIP maps mean? I don't know.
um, yeah, that's a no. I really wish I had a verse engineer and a technical UI artist
It's
on
just
both
Derek
sides of me
today.
here. So so what does it actually? So it certainly means it's not going to create different sort of visual fidelity levels based on things like distance and so forth. Um, uh, and that's not a great explanation, but it is it's not something that you need in UI, for example. At least 2D screen space UI. It's all meant to be at the same plane when it's in 2D, like screen space UI. So we don't need to render something at a lower quality because it's further away, for example. So this just ensures that all the UI textures are not gonna be blurred or anything.
I was asking if you have any advice for somebody who is new to Verse UI.
Oh gosh. Really? I think just just follow some of the great tutorials that are out there made by the community. Thank you to those who have done that. Um, and just I think just start trying things and try to get creative. Um, and I would say don't get too disheartened learning new language elements like verse compared to like C sharp or something. Um, and uh, there's there is usually I find solutions that are out there to many problems. Um, and don't get too disheartened if you can't find a great solution. Often that means there's just a tech gap that we would intend to address in as soon as time as possible. Um, but I think
Mm.
with material block, this should open up a lot of creative avenues.
Yes, absolutely. And we've gotten this question a few times just to reiterate, is this project going to be shared with us after the stream or at some point with all the stuff you're showing off?
I would love to release this at some point. Yeah, it's not ready to go right after this stream, but there's nothing special about this. This is going out publicly in 3520, so that's in a couple days, is it? I
Yeah.
think okay, cool. so um
It
so
says.
um yeah, we would love to have this shared out real soon.
Cool,
We can
cool.
certainly look to maybe paste some of this on the other the forums and other information sharing places.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, there's so many we appreciate all your questions. There's so many questions that are, is this in the plans? Will this be expanded? Will this be coming? And unfortunately, since it's just me and Derek, we can't really speak to knowing exactly what's coming and when. But again, if there are things that you really, really want, because I'm noticing a lot of these questions are probably rooted in this is a thing that I would love to have or would want, please put them in our forums. Please upvote them, search for them, upvote them. It's very helpful because we're getting a lot of great questions about things.
We are certainly hard at work
Yes.
on the UI systems area, on building a strong foundation upon which to build UI systems that will let you make any UI that you want. This is meant to be a tool to live on for a very long time. It's very future facing, and that's in part why we do a lot of measure twice and cut once. Um, so we are absolutely hard at work on the foundational needs for this like robust UI system. And we all just can't wait to release it publicly when it's ready for that.
Definitely. Someone did ask, I don't know if you can speak to this one, Derek. Is it a bad idea to cheat the HUD message device to have more than 4 layers? We can copy other numbers to layers.
I can't speak specifically to that. I do think the state of a lot of the tools is that you can do sort of these hacks or cheats you might call it, use them in creative ways per se, to create an outcome that may not necessarily been expected originally or thought about, but that's okay. If it feels particularly hacky, it's certainly not meant to be the the actual solution. But I think it's okay to use lots of those. Um, uh, I can't speak specifically to that one though, about the layers of the HUD message device. But maybe we can try to address that
Yeah.
offline.
Good question for the forums. Um, and someone was asking, is it possible to modify the parameters on runtime via verse?
At runtime, that is 100% of what I'm doing.
There you go.
Unless I'm interpreting that wrong. Like that's the entire goal of this. So I think that a great example is this async loop that happens here where we animate the player portrait material, the player portrait from the bottom up. This happening at runtime. So we're doing this
Oh,
tight loop of one frame per second with a sleep 0 here, and we're just subtracting, or we're taking it from, I think -1 to 0, and during during, yeah, so during gameplay, um, we're taking this and we're saying, um, whoops, um, oh, well, I set it up differently just now, but we're taking this value and we're going from 0 to, oh, it's the wrong material. That's what it is. We're taking this value and we're going from -1 to 0 at runtime.
Cool. Uh, Someone's asking if this video will be available on the video section later. Yes, it's going to be a VOD, so please check it out when we're done. If you wanted to revisit anything, we'll be trying to add some timestamps in there too. And then someone else was asking, can we invite the engineer into the Verse Discord server? We definitely have the Verse channel on our official Discord server, so I'll do some investigating, some poking around, see if there's any availability for anyone to answer some questions, because that would be great. That's a good idea. Uh, let's see. Oh, another question. Does tint apply as a tint after the material, or can we access it from within the material somehow?
Um, so it's a good question because it can be confusing. If we look at, say, this is a instance based off texture with effects. And it has a tint color here, for example. And
Yeah.
we can change this to something here, and um actually has like a gradient. I can turn the gradient off and it's green now. So this this is simply called tint, right? But all this is actually is this is just opening up this complicated material, and we're just changing. Um, so within here is the tinting um, nodes. So tint is applying this part of the material, and within material block and verse, the API has tint in it. I can go down here.
Hmm.
So these are different things, right? So setting tint is applying it on top of the material.
Cool. Thank you so much. Let's see. Another cool technical question. Are you able to install this into something for a larger project with limited space and still change and tweak parameters and values the same if it's combined into, say, a master material? Are you able to instant?
Um, so there this really gets into material best practices, and there are a lot of great tutorials on that. And it'd be great actually to try to um, there's a lot of great ones by Epic, and there's also plenty more from the community. So it's great to go look for those. Um, Again, I know I do, because our technical artists would not be happy with me if if I didn't say this many times, I guess. But um, performance is absolutely important for video games, right? It is it's key because different platforms have different performance capabilities. Um, so you want things to be as optimized as possible, right? And so these materials, in some ways, these sort of usable materials are like, hey, I can, just change this and now it's pixelating, right? The fact that this material has pixelated capabilities in it, um, but you might not use it, that's basically coming out of performance cost. Yeah, some measurable amount. So ideally, you wouldn't include these things, right? So when you're looking to really optimize something, then you want to make it as optimized as possible, means to remove anything that is not actually providing core to your gameplay. Generally, it's best not to make these like Uber materials that could do everything, because you end up not actually using all those things, and they're not as performant as something that is just well suited. What you do get from these is sort of a measure of usability, and they're great for prototyping and getting ideas out there and so forth, or in cases when um, and it's not very impactful in terms of performance.
I was asking, so just drop in our own guard spawner with custom mesh and it will automatically work?
Um, just throw in. I think no is the answer, but
Yeah, yeah, probably no.
this is actually
A bit
not
complex.
very complicated. So we just have a guard spawner here, and I didn't do really anything special with it at all. I just chose the robot trespasser guy, and I gave it like one spawn count. I just set some properties here. I made it a wildlife team, so it attacks you. um, and there's really nothing special going on here, and all of it's really happening in verse. The guard spawner has some pretty good verse API. I'm sure there's a lot more we could do to improve it even further, but it has a lot. I copied those down here, and so this demo is verse code heavy. It's all about the verse code, and it's
Mm.
really about demonstrating, hey, you're in verse. You have some awesome data coming from the guard spawner about enemies or even allies. You can make them you can befriend the guards, right, and you can hire them. The API is pretty robust, and you can use that to drive materials in interesting ways. But all of this we need to write in verse code for this demo. And again, this UI layout that I that we sort of roughed out in this gray boxing tool, right? This structure, which ended up looking like this is created in verse code. So there's in this case, there's not a what you see is what you get editor. It's not. I didn't build that in UMG. It's actually built. It's all built right here through this structure. Um,
Cool.
Certainly, there's a strong need to use a tool like UMG to build UI in UEFN, and there are ways you can do that right now. You can look at the
Mm.
GDC talk. We demonstrated a bunch of really cool HUD examples, but Material Block is part of the Verse UI code stack.
Yeah, someone was asking if there would be a lab or any more detailed examples at Unreal Fest next week.
There is a lab, and there are a few talks.
Oh, nice. There you go. Oh, look.
This talk is getting a little further into Material Block than the Unreal Fest talk now, but we will be showing some interactive UI using Material Block, which is pretty cool. And some here's some gameplay examples that you might use, like sort of end-to-end gameplay, which is
Oh,
pretty exciting.
very cool. Was there more that we wanted to show, Derek, or did we want to do more questions to the end? We've got about 15 minutes, so I just wanted to check in and see if there was anything else.
Um, this is pretty much what I wanted to talk about.
Cool.
Yeah. So
Awesome. Yeah. I'm trying to
okay.
parse through. We've answered like looks like I've gone through over 100 questions, which is wild. Not necessarily answered all of them, but sorting them because we've got so many. Oh, someone was asking if these can be moved over to UE. I saw that question earlier as
Oh
well.
gosh, I don't know.
It's hard
Maybe yeah. I
to try it out.
there are a few differences. But as far as sometimes the asset versions, you can't bring in an asset made in a newer version to an older
Mm,
version or something. There are some versioning, checks that might block an asset from being imported.
yeah, that makes sense.
But if you were to go to the UI template, you see a um, folder very much like structure like this, where you have a bunch of material functions and material instances, and these are the materials I was showing before. So basically, these materials were built off these material lab. Whoops, sorry, off these material
Mm,
lab functions. There's a bunch here. Um, and Material Lab was built in UE, so there are definitely, you can definitely cut and paste in a lot of
mm,
cases. I'm not sure if it'll always work. um, and there's some decisions, or there's a few differences that are important. There's a few rules, I should say, on the UEFN side of materials that we are sticking to that UE doesn't have. Um, there are some really cool things. So those skulls that I was showing here
yeah.
before, that the skull meter, the spawn count. Sorry, I'm flipping through them all to find it. Over here. So like I said, this was an SDF. And there's other materials which use um, other types of SDFs, and we gave a bunch of examples. These are all available in the UI template. You should go check them out. They're kind of fun to
Yeah.
use. They look like a blurry mess here, but what these what these are these are just some sort of uh, material textures that can be used for a meter. And there's some sci-fi ones. There's some sort of ink splat ones.
Mm,
They're sort of interesting, and you can go and make your own. Use
ooh,
them. That's oops. Sorry, I meant to say
very cool. Let's see.
meant to show. So
Mhm.
that one I just showed. Well, not that one, but this is an example of a meter, which
Ooh,
can take a texture that you create,
yeah.
make an SDF, and then you can do things uh, like this, and you can set a stroke size. So this is not a vector, but if you just keep me on the uh, on the video here, Shane's gonna kind of keep meandering into new
Oh,
things.
you're good. Yeah. We've gone through most of our questions. Some are might be a little bit more detailed on the first side that we're unable to answer, and then any that are, is this coming? Will this happen? That we don't know and we can't answer. So we've kind of gone through most of them. Let's see. Will the UE Fest talk on UI talk about, will the UE Fest talk about upcoming UI features from the roadmap? That's a good question.
um, uh, it's primarily about education on features that are being released, like this one right around the same time. Um, so there are some new things, uh, but it's not talking about things that are um, uh, not clearly detailed out on the roadmap, for example, yet.
Okay, cool. No, to clarify, we can ask some verse questions. I just want to, some of them we're just not able to answer because it's just me and Derek. Let's see. If we make our own custom device using verse, does it automatically have replication multiplayer, or do we have to add it? This might be a different. That's a specifically a verse question.
That
Uh,
is it yes, that's a good one to follow up on.
yeah, we should
But as
definitely
far as
ask in the
UI
verse chat.
goes, generally with multiplayer, what you want to do is create your UI widgets and then create a mapping for players. the player UI, and manage it that way.
Yes. Let's see. Um, is material block able to be casted since it's a widget type, similar to texture block?
Um, say it again.
Oh no, I just organized it. Sorry.
Oh, is
I
material block
sorted it
able to
after
be
I did
casted?
it. Um, here we go. Yeah, is the
It
material
so
block able to be casted since it's a widget type?
um I haven't done that, so I can't
Okay.
answer it directly. It should behave very similarly to texture block. It,
Okay.
basically, it's like texture block, it inherits everything from parameterized materials. So you can access the parameters and set and get and set them.
Very cool. I do see your question about all the different types of buttons and when they're coming, but we sadly can't share. We just don't have the information. We don't have that knowledge. Um, but if there's something you want, please feel free to share it in the forums. Let's see. Okay. I just want to double check before I ask because some of these are just only verse and not UI. Um, are these material parameters per client or would I need to create a copy for each player? I think we went over that for each player they would
Right.
need their
Yeah.
own.
I think
Yes.
yeah, I think it'd be good to share an example that's targeting multiplayer.
Yeah.
So that'd be a good demo to get out there.
Definitely getting a lot of the multiplayer questions. So can we bind these parameter values materials to variables values?
Uh so you can absolutely set them from verse, and there really isn't a binding um uh in verse on this. But you can there is if you can you share my screen again? Have you been sharing? There we go. Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, we did for a bit. We just
Oh,
switched
good.
back when
Okay,
we
I
were
wasn't sure
answering
if
questions.
I've been
Yeah.
talking to about the screen and no one's seeing it.
You're
Something I
good.
do all the time. So yeah, so a good example is here we have on guard damaged. So guard damage event. This happens when a guard is damaged, and what we do is we just we get that agent and we get the forward character because that has the health, and so we set this variable called enemy health value to player's health. Um, and then we just go here and we have our material called radial material that we here. Bear with me here. We define that up here. So we just have radial material, and it's of that type enemy health meter, right? And all we're doing is setting the progress on that. So whoops, it was right here, guard damage. So we're setting the progress value to that health value that we just grabbed. So you're not binding it per se, but in the same function here, we're getting the enemy's health, and then we're setting that value to that. We're setting the material parameter called progress, which defines where it is on that meter to that
Hmm.
value, and that's how we're updating it.
Got it. Oh, someone's saying currently the verse API's damage underscore result struct does not expose hit bone information. Is there a
Hmm.
way we can find the hit bone? For example, if I want to detect a headshot.
That's a great question.
Yeah,
It's one for us to hold on to. Certainly, because that came up a lot when we were building ballistic, and um, there is certainly uh, a lot of improvements like that that would really benefit uh, games like that ability to detect more precise information about hit.
definitely.
I can't speak offhand if there is that capability.
Yeah. And we use the material block to read out data from a material. Say you want data from a texture, a noise function, or other stuff only in materials.
There is get image in the API on material block. I'm not sure if that's answers your question, but you can get the the image being used.
I was asking, how does Material Block handle localized material variants with different parameters set up? Same can be applied to other verse assets too, as a question.
It's a good question. Yeah, another one to track, get back to.
Yep, another good one. Let's see. We're getting close to the end here. Could you clarify if the color setter API from Verse, oh, this is to UE. I don't know if we'll know this. To UE converts the incoming verse color from ACES to sRGB. It's not clear if we'd get interesting like color issues or if it's intrinsic, or do we need to pre-calculate from ACES to sRGB?
These are some great questions.
Yeah.
And we just yeah, and we would just need to have someone who can give a very clear answer with confidence on that.
Yeah, we don't
I
want to
don't want to
lead you
pass.
astray.
Yeah, I don't want to lead you astray.
Can we make it so I'm assuming it is the material blocks. Can we make it per player or will it be global? I'm not sure.
The demo that I showed today wasn't take into account multiplayer.
Okay.
So
Oh yeah.
every player would have seen that signal, which is silly, right?
Cool.
Yeah, I think it would be great to release a demo that shows how you might handle it for per player.
Very cool.
But
Character.
generally, there's a mapping you want to do where you keep track of the player and their UI. You
Mm.
show the right one to the right person.
I think we answered this one, but not at this time. I don't think we're able to. But it says character portraits, can they be masked in any form from a material?
This sounds like
Yeah.
like would it be, super handy to be able to get the players I guess you could call it locker outfit or their portrait from Verse. Yes, that'd be awesome. Definitely something we're tracking. If we had that in the Verse API where you can get the player's locker outfit and their portrait, then you could certainly pass that into as a material parameter. For now, what you can do is you can get the player's portrait using the HUD controller device. There is a view model called player information, I
Mm.
believe, and it returns the local player's portrait and an array of all your teammates. And through bindings, you can set that up to use the same materials that I showed today. We'll
Very
talk
cool.
about that actually a bit on Real Fest. Also, the GDC talk went over some of that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I will, let's see, make sure I have that. Yeah, let me drop that in chat again. So if you'd like to see more about Verse UI and other things that Derek talked about at GDC, please check out his GDC talk. I just pasted it in chat. Well, with that, we're at 2 hours. My goodness, and we still had so many questions. But thank you all for stopping by and asking your questions. We'll start up a thread on the forums, so you can ask more verse questions if you would like, and I'll put it in there. And then we also have the verse. Channel in the official Discord for FN Create. So feel free and drop questions in there too. But thank you so much, Derek, for coming on, preparing all that for the audience. We know Derek is super, super busy, especially with everything coming for Unreal Fest. So thank you so much for taking that time. And I know you all have been asking for something like this. So let us know what you think and what else you would like to see for a stream like this. And we'll definitely take that into consideration. But yeah, thank you so much. And I guess I'd like to ask you, Derek, for one last question, which is, do you have any advice for developers new to the space or those that we have in our community, or any thoughts that you would like to share to the community overall?
Oh my gosh. Gosh, advice. I think sometimes programming and kind of like professional tech, tools can be intimidating. One main piece of advice is I think is just get in there and jump in and follow tutorials. If you're familiar with UE and you've seen Blueprint, there's the thing about Blueprint is it's like sort of visual nodes. We call them noodle graphs, where you connect one node to another with the noodle. Materials are like that, but they certainly can feel a lot easier because they really limit the amount of choices. They kind of guide you down a path in a way, if you will. Um, in code, when you're writing code, there's a lot more to think about. You type a character wrong or don't capitalize something, then everything turns red, like you saw at the beginning. So it certainly takes a measure of patience if you're new to programming, but I've learned to love a lot of things about verse, and I think there's a lot of really sort of forward looking things there. So I'd say I think Material Block gives you actually a lot of creative capability. um, the two barriers are, oh no, I have to code, and oh no, I have to learn materials. So for materials, please look at the UI template, look at all the materials that we provided there, and start to hack away at them, make your own, learn them a bit. There's a lot of cool things you can do with that. And on the verse side, just look at examples, and I think a lot of magic can happen now that you can drive materials dynamically from verse. So your creative potential should be a lot easier to realize your creative vision than it was before. And personally, I can't wait to see what the community makes with this tool.
Yes, me too, y'all. If you make anything cool and put it on X or Twitter, like please tag me. Let us know. Tag FN Create. We'd love to see the cool stuff that you're gonna make with this. Just as with anything, we like to keep an eye out on that. So we appreciate you and thank you again so much, Derek, for being here. I got a lot of love in chat for being here. We all very much appreciate you, and we'll see you all next time on the next Creating in Fortnite live stream. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.